Good afternoon. It is Wednesday afternoon, and you're with ThinkTech Hawaii.
And Hawaii Energy Policy Forum.
I'm
going
going to get to that.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, Sharon, I'm Ray Starling, and I'm with Hawaii Energy, and I am co-hosted today with this program by Sharon Moriwaki, who is the co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And we have a great guest here today, Joe Boivin, who is the Senior Vice President of Business Development and Corporate Affairs, whatever that is, at Hawaii Gas, formerly known as the gas company.
That's
right?
correct. That's correct. Thanks for having me.
Well, we are glad to have you. We have been going all over the map over the last few weeks with energy issues and all the changes taking place, and it really is a moving target for all of us. And we really haven't done a whole lot with gas in terms of, it's been all about the electric rates and the electric utility and how the PV is going to interfere or not interfere with the various circuits. But we really need to know a little bit more about gas and what that can do as far as helping us with our problems. But before we go there, I'd like to take just a minute or two, or 3 or 4 perhaps, to have you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, how you got to be with the gas or Hawaii Gas, and sort of how did you get to Hawaii?
Okay, well, I won't go back too far, but originally born in Connecticut, born and raised in Connecticut, and at some point during my career I ended up in Washington, D.C., and in about 1997, 98 is when I met my wife from Hawaii. And she was going to law school in D.C. and wanted to come back to Hawaii at some point. So in 2004, after we had gotten married, we made that decision to return, and with the intention of starting a family. And so I've married into a local Japanese family here, and been in Hawaii for 10 years.
Right.
And now have two kids, 1 boy, 1 girl, both 6 years old. So
Twins? Are they twins? Wow.
Twins. Yeah, they just turned 6 a few weeks ago. So we've got everything that we wanted to do when we came to Hawaii has kind of worked out, and now we're looking forward to the kids growing up here and going to school here, and enjoying what Hawaii has to offer.
Well, tell us a little bit about sort of what's your education. If somebody wants to be in the gas business today, sort of where did you come from, and how did you finally get here with the Hawaii Gas?
Probably a mixture of skills. It wasn't a career path I had started out or originally mapped out. Mechanical engineering, graduate degree in business, and many certifications along the way. But originally, I built airplanes at Northrop Grumman as an engineer for several years in Texas, and then that work led me to working with the Secretary of Defense at a think tank in Washington, D.C., and conducting studies and analyses on large-scale defense programs. And from there it was a few entrepreneurial activities, but ultimately when I came out to Hawaii, I worked with the consulting firm of Booz Allen Hamilton for about 5 years, and some of that work that I was doing and the management of teams and so forth led itself to working at Hawaii Gas. So about 5 years ago, I made the switch to the Hawaii Gas team, and started off managing the statewide operations of our company, where we sell propane on all of the islands, and we sell synthetic natural gas on the island of Oahu. And then from there, a number of different roles within the company that ultimately have led me to be very involved with our strategic initiatives, and figuring out how we lower the cost of energy in Hawaii for our customers.
So tell us how then the pathway to LNG, I know that you folks have been studying it for a while. I know the Policy Forum was involved with you a couple of years back when you brought people together. So what was the pathway and why and how the decision came about, and where does it fit in the general plan for the future?
Well, I'll tell you how it started for us, which is probably close to about 4 years now, and that was understanding Hawaii's energy landscape, what's going on with our refineries, the impact that the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative is having on their existing slate of products, and the fact that all of us here, Hawaii Gas included, are very much reliant on imported oil. Because keep in mind that our propane and our synthetic natural gas are also derived from imported oil, just like our electric utilities, fuel oil and diesel is, as is our ground transportation and marine transportation segments. So knowing that the environment was about to go under a fair amount of change and that we were seeing some long-term trending upward in prices, we decided to look at how to diversify our fuel supply. And one of the fuels that we looked into was natural gas. And at this time, the natural gas, the increase in natural gas production was really in its earlier stages. But nonetheless, as we looked into that and we figured out, well, how do we get it to Hawaii from the mainland? It turned out that in doing this, even in these small containers, that it was certainly competitive with and even less than the cost of our existing gas in Hawaii, which is interesting because there's really very little economies of scale in putting natural gas in its liquid form in a container and shipping it on a conventional container ship, right? It's not a big tanker, but even doing that, it was less expensive than doing what we've been doing since 1972. So that's what moved us down this path.
Well, that's very interesting. I've not heard that. And let me ask, I know in a refinery operation, you put raw materials in and you get I guess the finished product out the other end. But if you are moving away from taking the natural gas or the synthetic natural gas, because the price is better back on the mainland, what happens to the natural gas that is being generated in the refinery process?
Well, all of our synthetic natural gas that we sell on the island of Oahu, through our existing distribution systems, we have, just a quick review, a synthetic natural gas plant built in 1972. And at that time, the company was also responsible for building what is now known as the HIE refinery. And we built those two facilities to be symbiotic. And that is, as the barrel of oil is thermally cracked, it kicks off a fraction called naphtha, which we take at the gas plant and turn into a synthetic natural gas. And then we send that out through 1,000 miles of distribution lines stretching from Kapolei to Hawaii Kai. So that's our existing SNG business on Oahu, which is regulated by the commission. So obviously, as we bring in LNG to displace that SNG that's now made, we will draw less and less naphtha from the HIE refinery. But keep in mind that right now, all we've been granted commission approval to do is the small-scale
Just importing.
What we've seen in the
backup
newspaper
enhancement
lately.
project, exactly. So the final decision and order that came out allowed us to recover all of the fuel costs for natural gas coming over, but just for the enhancement project, the backup enhancement project. So during this year, as we go forward, we will continue to look at how do we ramp up, what are the benefits to our customers from ramping up, and then logistically, how do we start to bring it to Hawaii in containers, but get some economies of scale. So we continue to work with the Commission and DBET and some of the other stakeholders to make sure everybody is up to date on what we're doing. But any additional activity above and beyond what we've been allowed to do today will require another filing and another decision in order from the Commission.
So your current process, to make this synthetic gas, so you're going to be phasing that out, or how do the two coincide or coexist, or do they, or are you moving to LNG?
Well, I
What's
think
your plan?
I think longer term, if you look to where our future is, it certainly makes sense to move to natural gas. And if that takes place, then we have an existing asset that's making natural gas, so that in all likelihood wouldn't be needed unless a couple of things happen. One is that it could still serve as a useful form of backup energy, which we'll assess going forward. Or two, it may provide a useful way to generate surplus energy. So all of this, as we know, is very symbiotic in Hawaii, the interconnections between the refineries, the utilities, and the uses of fuels. So I think what is most important is that as this matures, it's done in a way that considers all of the impacts and is done in an orderly way.
So your plan right now, is that the crux of your plan going forward, or as you move forward, is LNG displacing, or do you have something else on the horizon? What is Hawaii Gas's view of the future, and from there back to where you are now? Are there that kind of big visionary plan?
Well, when we looked at the cost of LNG in containers, it definitely makes sense for our business. So we're intending to use this year to solidify our plans to expand this container model for our own business, and then go back to the Commission for approvals as required. There's also some inquiries from unregulated commercial entities in Hawaii that would like to start exploring the use of natural gas in the unregulated environment. So we're working with those stakeholders
What would
to
that
move
be,
forward.
unregulated versus regulated?
Well, this might be a large commercial operation that is not drawing gas from the utility distribution system today. And
So that's the distinction, is that you've got pipes
exactly.
like a power line, but where the pipes are, that is the regulated part of the business.
Right.
Is that a good way to?
And so the
Yeah.
others would just take like what, canisters and use it, or how would that, what would they use, and what would they use it for?
So you would, just like we've done in the past few weeks, ship a container to Hawaii. You would ship a container to wherever that location is, and you would regas it on site and then use it in any type of gas appliance. So it could be a reciprocating engine, could be a small gas turbine, could be a fuel cell, could be any number of devices. So as we look forward to expand the container program for our own business, we're also talking with these unregulated entities as well. But beyond that, you can get cost savings in containers, which are quite good, to displace a number of the more expensive fuels that we have in Hawaii. But really, when you look at it bigger picture, for what are we going to do in Hawaii going forward, we have a couple of choices, and one of those choices is to kind of do nothing, and we continue to burn oil and look for our other industries. The marine industry has new environmental regulations. The electricity generation industry does as well, and we can try to meet those using alternate means, or we can switch to a cleaner and lower cost fuel. So the numbers are compelling with the study that we've done a few years ago at the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, and that Hawaiian Electric and Hawaii Gas have all done. And all of them point us in the direction that says, based on what we know today about fuel costs, the use of natural gas in Hawaii could reduce the fuel cost by 30 to 50%. So that's the fuel going into the marine industry, the power industry, and our business, by 30 to 50%. And that is, I think, a compelling enough number to seriously consider the use of natural gas in Hawaii.
Want to hold that thought? We need to take a break, and we'll come right back in just a few minutes. And this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy. It is Energy Wednesday. All right. Thank you very much.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidel. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. We're back in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. I'm Ray Starling. I'm co-hosted today with Sharon Moriwaki. And our guest for today is Joe Boivin from the Hawaii Gas, formerly the gas company. He's the Senior Vice President of Business Development and Corporate Affairs. And we were just getting really into gas and how it's used and transported and so forth here in Hawaii. Could you tell us a little bit about where your actual distribution lines are, where you bring it in and then where it ends up? What's the farthest reach that you have now?
Our existing lines on Oahu stretch from Kapolei to Hawaii Kai, and along the way serve thousands of homes, all of Waikiki, so the heart of our tourism industry on Oahu, the military, and any number of restaurants and other commercial entities such as laundries and other businesses that have a need for heating or cooling load. So there's about 1,000 miles of infrastructure that already exists on this island, and that distribution infrastructure also lends itself to bringing in natural gas. Right? We don't have to build all of that distribution infrastructure because the majority of it passes by the large potential users of natural gas, such as Hawaiian Electric. So much of that is there today.
So you don't have to do anything. You just bring them in the tanker and then you shoot it through your pipes.
Well, it's not quite that easy, but you would
That covers it.
you would bring it in, and there's several different ways to get it to shore that are being assessed, and several different sites that are being looked at as well. So let me just run through some of those.
Well, could you back up just a moment, and could you tell us what is the difference between natural gas and synthetic natural gas? The synthetic being that which you somehow make out of the refining process.
So since 1972, we've used the naphtha I spoke about earlier from the HIE refinery, and that naphtha is just a long carbon chain. We thermally crack it and we turn it into methane, CH4, which is natural gas. And that SNG that comes out through our distribution infrastructure is about 80 to 85% methane. Now, if you were to look at LNG coming to Hawaii, and once it's regasified, that will be about 99% methane. So we're looking at roughly 80 to 85% as compared to 99%. Now, the difference in our gas, the other 15 to 20%, is hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and a few other constituent parts of what's left over after we do this conversion. So it is predominantly a methane stream, our gas today, but there are some other components in it. Whereas if we bring natural gas here in the form of LNG, that is almost a pure methane stream that will go out. Now there's no difference from a customer standpoint in the appliances that burn this energy, or the flame quality, or the heating quality, or any of that, so it won't be noticed by customers. So it's a one-for-one substitute product for our existing synthetic natural gas.
So is that where you bring your price down, where you don't have to do any more kind of processing of the product?
Right, there is a conversion cost to having a synthetic natural gas plant, right? You have feedstock coming in, you convert it into methane, and although it's very efficient, there's still a cost to that. So the finished product is fuel plus conversion costs. If we were to one day switch altogether then we would lower the cost of not only the fuel, but we would reduce the cost or eliminate the cost of conversion.
So, so is that the plan, I mean, a long-range plan, if this works out, so that you would not have to do that? But then again, you're importing everything, right? So you're not producing any.
Right, and I think that the ultimate answer as to the end state of the synthetic natural gas plant that we have depends on a number of things. You know, one, could it be an adequate backup for our system even if we do switch to natural gas? Two, is there a way that the plant could be used to lend itself towards renewable energy conversions of various feedstocks? So we'll need to evaluate that as we go forward, but that's obviously an important part of our business that we've had going since 1972, and we'll need to address what happens with that going forward.
Is just a quick question. You mentioned propane as part of your business as well, and I take it that there's no regulation on the price of propane. It's basically you deliver, the customer pays whatever the retailer charges.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
we have several propane companies in Hawaii, so it's an unregulated business.
Okay, all right.
And competition, in this case, is what sort of regulates the
Gotcha.
pricing.
Gotcha.
In the case of our synthetic natural gas, you know, there's really only one company that will do that, right? So it's deserving of regulatory oversight because of lack of competition.
Okay.
And so it serves a public good. But we really don't want 2 or 3 synthetic natural gas companies operating here and each have their own pipelines and so to
Right.
speak. So it makes sense there. But in the propane business, there are small regulated propane distribution systems in Hawaii. For example,
Oh, really?
strip malls that have a central tank with underground infrastructure delivering to the restaurants and maybe nearby residential neighborhoods. There's small regulated propane systems throughout Hawaii as there are in the mainland, but by and large, for the most part, the hotels, the homes are delivered propane in bottles or fill up a tank at your house, and it's all in an unregulated environment.
Okay.
So it becomes regulated when it becomes a monopoly, or what, I guess that's the only one that's buying something, or when does it get regulated versus unregulated?
Well, that definition is, I think a good working definition is that, you know, if there's adequate competition in the market, it probably doesn't need to be regulated. If there's a lack of competition
see, right.
and there's monopolistic behavior, then that's where you want to have regulation come in to make sure that the company is allowed to operate and earn enough money and a fair rate of return to keep itself compliant and functional, and balance that with giving the consumer a fair price for that commodity.
So this LNG that Hawaii Gas is importing, I know that I saw in the paper that it's also HECO's looking at it, some of the other utilities. How is that play going on? Are you all playing nicely in the sandbox? Or are you having some competition that will make it to the state of unregulated? What is the mix there, and how is that going on?
I think we've made tremendous progress in the past few years with working together. And in December of last year, we'd signed a memorandum of understanding with Hawaiian Electric, which outlined our working relationship to pursue large-scale LNG in Hawaii. And it also outlined a number of guiding principles that we would use in the pursuit of this. And those guiding principles were things such as, you know, bring it to market as soon as we can. Do it in a regulated environment so that the Commission has full visibility into all of the operations and the profits being made. Do this in a way that allows all islands to benefit, not just Oahu.
That's good.
Do this in a way that allows all industries to benefit, not just electricity production. So keep in mind that of our roughly 45 million barrels of oil that we import to Hawaii each year, you know, about a third of that is used for electricity, but a third of that is also used for marine and ground transportation. So if we're going to move away from oil, we want to move away from oil in a way with a fuel that's going to be able to meet the needs of these industry sectors. And renewable energy of course, addresses a lot of what is happening in electricity generation. But currently, it doesn't do much for addressing ground and marine transportation. So this is a fuel that will help all of these sectors meet environmental compliance requirements and give a substantial decrease in fuel cost to lower the cost of energy for us in Hawaii.
So when you say fuel cost and LNG, where does it go? Like, you can't put it in your tank, right? So how, is there another conversion process? Or I know that you were talking about hydrogen vehicles early on, right? Where you can actually use that for fueling the vehicles, but is there some thought in terms of the transportation? How does that fit?
Oh, very, very much so. I think if we look to any large city on the mainland, Los Angeles, for example, which has converted, I believe, approximately 2,200 buses, its entire bus fleet, to CNG, compressed natural gas. This has reduced emissions in the LA area and reduced cost. So I think one of the natural uses of this fuel in Hawaii is to displace diesel in the fleet vehicle arena. That would be the bus, garbage trucks, any of the vehicles used to move containers around in the harbors. There's some harbors that have already converted all of the vehicles that are used for drayage, for moving containers in and out of the harbors, that they all must be natural gas to reduce emissions. So those types of vehicles, I think, are the early transitions to natural gas and can benefit. And that is really, once you have natural gas in a pipeline, it's a matter of building a filling station and compressing that gas in order to fill up a CNG tank, compressed natural gas tank. So there's not a lot of additional technology needed to do that, and these filling stations are built across the mainland today.
And going back to, I know way back when the discussion was, how safe is it? Because it's, you know, and you can't see it and you can't smell it, so how safe is it for the population? And there are safeguards, but you know, what kinds of things have been done since in the technologies to be able to assess and deal with any kinds of leakages or explosions or whatever could happen with LNG?
You know, I think probably the most important part for everybody to recognize is that there are, this is an established industry, and there are quite a large number of regulations and policies and procedures that govern how you move a container of LNG versus how you move a big ship of LNG. For example, the Department of Transportation oversees this containerized movement, and what we're doing in Hawaii is not new. In the Everett, Massachusetts area, they've been bringing in LNG since 1971, and they've now delivered 1,000 large vessels of LNG into the Everett, Massachusetts area that serve Boston. And in addition to that, there are these containers that we brought to Hawaii that have been used to move LNG to what are called peaking plants or other power plants around the Boston area since 1971. So this has been going on for a long time, and there's been a lot of, I think, technology improvements and so forth. I'm not aware of any incidents with the container movements. Of course, when you get into large shipments, you know, the 1,000th large shipment coming into Massachusetts in, I think it was 2010 or 2012, is significant without incident of all of that. Now, as that ship moves in water, it's governed by the Coast Guard, right? And then the Department of Energy and the Department of Transportation all have a role in overseeing certain aspects of ship movements and land-based assets. So it's a very highly regulated and safe industry.
That's good to know. That's good to know for the general public. You know, seeing that this is a new substance coming in, we want to be sure it's safe for us all.
Well, it seems like it's
Is it
time for
time
another
again?
break.
It's
Yes.
time for
So this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy. I'm Ray Starling. I'm here with Sharon Moriwaki, and our guest, Joe Boivin, will be back in just a moment.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rafi. Every week, I'm right here at ThinkTech Hawaii, 3 p.m. on Mondays. My show is Boards' Bio Briefings. What do we do here? Well, we watch sperm swim. We see if they catch anybody. We check out the latest biosimilars. You know, the kind that, what was his name, the guy with the bicycle? I guess we forgot his name, but he was taking EPO and other human growth factors. We'll be talking about human growth factors. You want to know where to get some? Maybe I'll tell. Anyway, you can catch me, as I said, every week right here, Monday, 3 p.m., ThinkTech Hawaii, Dr. Rafi. You can also find me on Twitter, BioInfo Medical. Or you can catch me on Facebook, Dr. Rafael Boritzer. I'll be happy to converse with you. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. It's Wednesday. It's Energy Wednesday, and this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy. I'm Ray Starling, and with me today is my co-host Sharon Moriwaki, and our guest is gas guy, Joe Boivin, Senior Vice President of Business Development and Corporate Affairs for Hawaii Gas, and we're just getting started. Wanted to sort of take us off on another line of thought here and basically see if we can talk about where you, as the gas company, see us going with gas with regard to our efforts to replace all of the fossil fuels eventually with renewables. Where do you see the gas company helping? What do you see as the issues for the gas company? How long do you see this, the fossil fuel still being needed here in Hawaii?
Well, that's not an easy question to answer. Let me go back to I think the reason that I think this is so important for us in Hawaii gets back to living here. This is a very expensive place to live, and I'd like to be able to do what I can to lower the cost of energy. And despite our incredible achievement of renewable energy, we've already achieved our 2015 renewable portfolio standard goal of 15% by the end of 2013, which is incredible. But at the same time, since 2008, the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative was implemented, we've also seen a steady increase in our total energy costs. So renewable energy use is increasing, but our costs continue to go up. And I think we understand it's a very complex environment as to how all these things interact. But the way that I see natural gas helping here, number one, is to get fairly short term. Could be in as little as 3 years, could be 5 to 7 years, some relief on the cost side from using natural gas, certainly in electricity generation, and I think fairly quickly in marine and ground transportation as well. So that's number one. We're going to be able to put downward pressure on the cost of energy in Hawaii, which I think is tremendously important that we do. Now, longer term, as renewable energy continues to increase, we're all aware that the main problem with the variability of wind and solar energy is that we're unable to store this cost effectively today. And because of that, it means we will continue to need some type of gas engine or liquid fueled engine in the background to provide this firm power that we need to function as a society. And if that's just a fact for having a reliable electricity. And so as the amount of renewables continues to increase, what we think you can do is instead of using the existing type of generation that we have installed today, is to switch to what is called load following generation. And that load following generation will complement the variability of wind and solar energy.
So what is load following?
So load following means that as you regulate your frequency and your voltage in an electricity grid, and wind slows down or clouds come over and that variability changes, we need to pick up the slack with other energy that is available to go at a moment's notice. Now, in very short periods of time, you can use batteries, You could use flywheels, you could use compressed air storage, or any number of other ways to store electricity. But over longer periods of time, you need a more robust source of cost-effective power. So by coupling low-cost renewable energy with this load-following, clean, but also low-cost gas energy supplied power, you get the best of both worlds. You get a low-carbon renewable energy that is variable, so that's its weakness, but you marry that with a low-carbon, the lowest carbon-emitting fossil fuel, and a low-cost form of gas energy. So between the two, you have a great partnership. You have one that's firm and is the lowest emitting fossil fuel, and you have one that emits no CO2 or other greenhouse gases, but isn't firm. And we marry these two up. And I think that's a model for whether we do this at what's called the edge of the grid, or we do this at distributed generation facilities or a large central plant, the idea remains the same. We need to figure out a way to cost effectively balance the intermittency of renewable energy. And we think that natural gas is the answer to do that, along with a different set of engines or turbines that will follow that load.
So some of the discussion was, from those who want us to put all our stock into renewables, and this is detracting us from renewables. And we've said, okay, this might be a transition fuel, but basically what you're telling me, it's not a transition fuel, it's a backup fuel, and that you really are looking at a sliver of LNG being constantly there, and how might we answer those who say, oh, it's all renewables?
I think it's a very good question. And I also will tell you that the answer is very difficult to get to. I don't think there's anybody right now that can tell you with any degree of assurance in what year we will be able to have these technologies in place that provide reliable, utility scale electricity across the grid. But again, keep in mind, in many conversations that we have, we just talk electricity. We have ground and marine transportation. We have direct use at Hawaii Gas. Right. We have other applications for this energy. It's not, our entire economy is not just about electricity. It's about a number of different cost factors that are all part of the energy equation. So going back to your question though, is this a transitional fuel, or is it a fuel that we're looking to use forever? I'll tell you this, that we're working with everybody to figure that out. How does this work as a transitional fuel? We're working very hard to minimize the impact on our harbors and our environment for whatever infrastructure is needed in a way that it can be flexible to meet changing demands. So in theory, over time, the demand for fossil fuels for electricity generation ought to decline due to the increased use of renewable energy. But that decline could very well be offset by an uplift in use in marine and ground. So when you add all of this up, you're talking about a substantial amount of energy that is going to need some infrastructure in order to do what it needs to do, and that is to ensure reliability and lower the cost of energy in Hawaii. So it's very difficult to say when this transition will take place to a 100% renewable future. I would expect over time, though, that renewables increase, and I think the use of these load-following engines that I described is actually a way to increase the use of renewable energy in a cost-effective way, and that as those other technologies for large-scale storage and quick load-following capability come to market and they're cost-effective, and we put them to use in Hawaii, which I think is going to take several years. But as this moves forward, we'll learn more, and we'll be able to adjust our use of LNG going forward accordingly.
Joe, I've got a question about the infrastructure. If, let's say we were going to use LNG for a longer term, and our clean energy goals right now are only to have really 70% clean energy, 30 of that 70% is efficiency,
Yep.
and then 40% is, renewables. but that still leaves 60% that has to be generated by something. So if you really look at it, and that's going to be by definition not efficiency and not renewables. So the only thing left in 2030, if we meet our goals, we'll still be using 60% fossil fuels to generate the 100% power that we need, with the 40% renewables and the 60% fossil. So it won't, I think you're right. We don't like that. We'd like to get it faster. But my question really comes down to how much infrastructure? We worry about putting a lot of money into something right now that something might come along and that infrastructure becomes sort of obsolete. And then the question is, can we afford to then abandon that structure that we've built for all of this LNG? Have you got any thoughts about that? Is the amount of infrastructure that it would take to bring, let's say, LNG, let's say just to the power facilities, so that they could be refurbished to allow them to burn natural gas instead of the oil that they burn now.
You know, let me give you a kind of a range of estimates as to what we've discovered in the studies and the analyses that we've done. And keep in mind that we've been on this track for nearly 4 years. We've spent several millions of dollars without getting any recovery on that to explore this alternative. There are the least intrusive ways to do this on Oahu. Could get Oahu up and running, you know, within a 3 to 5 year period, but just Oahu. So you could phase in something that was offshore, that really involved a very minimum amount of infrastructure, and do this for somewhere in the, you know, in the neighborhood of $100 million. And when you do something like that, and then you recover that $100 million over that much energy that's coming out, it really becomes incredibly small on anybody's energy bill. I mean, very small. Now, if you have to construct some shore-based infrastructure because you want to maybe move LNG to the neighbor islands, because remember, that's one of the guiding principles, is that all people in Hawaii should be able to share this lower cost energy. If you want to move this to a neighbor island, you're going to need a staging facility and some ways to offload LNG into onshore storage. Now, if you build that up, but you still build it up in a very small scale way, okay, then you know your costs go up, but now you're looking at anywhere between, you know, $200 to $500 million. And I've seen nothing that moves the cost of the land-based storage above that number. And when you're talking about that much energy, again, across that many dollars, it really becomes quite small. And the net benefit is overwhelmingly positive. And let me give you an example. If we were to spend, let's say, anywhere from $200 to $500 million to do this, the savings in the electricity generation sector alone would be roughly $200 to $400 million a year in just fuel cost savings. $200 to $400 million a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
If we include marine and ground transport, and obviously they don't all start using it and transition 100% on day one. It's a multi-year process for them to buy new equipment, transition fleets, and so forth and so on. But the savings are even larger for those two industries, mostly because the fuels that they're using today are much more expensive than the fuels that we're using to produce electricity. So if they were to switch, then there would be a substantial cost savings. But just to simplify it, just looking at electricity, we could save $200 to $400 a year, and this is
$200 to $400
million a year.
million. Okay.
Big difference.
And this goes back to what the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute report found in our own studies. And look, we continue to refine these as we go forward. So I think the important point, you know, as I look at this and say, is this something we ought to be doing as a state? I say, well, it's going to help multiple industry segments meet environmental regulations. And if we don't do this, they're going to perhaps have to do something else that switch to a higher cost fuel or do something else that ends up increasing energy costs. So we don't want to do that. And this is a fuel that with a relatively small investment can be recouped very quickly. And I think if we do this in a way, again, that is designed in a flexible way, such that it's, we're never going to have the big LNG ships you see on TV with the, right, those are just too big for Hawaii. And nor are we going to have, massive LNG storage fields in Hawaii. But we can do this on a smaller scale that meets our own energy needs in the state and do it in a way that reduces the impact and is flexible so that 10 years out or 20 years out, we can reassess where we are and we can deal with it at that time, accordingly.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable. I'm very glad that we have been able to get you here and be able to tell the story of gas, and you certainly have done a good job of that. So we appreciate your being here today, and I just want to give you an opportunity to sort of, can you talk anything or say anything about the big picture energy-wise and where you see Hawaii going and perhaps what role the natural gas would play in your perfect world?
That's the hardest question I think you've asked all the whole time we've been here. Look, I think as we see on the mainland, natural gas has a fairly substantial share of all of the energy that's used, and it does that for a reason. It's clean, it's lower cost, and it's also a very efficient form of energy. And I think in Hawaii's situation, the current use of gas is very, very small, very, very small. Overall, we represent roughly 2% of Hawaii's energy needs. So currently, there's not a lot of gas used when you compare it to other fuels. But I think going forward, gas has a place in our energy future. Again, clean, meets emissions requirements, but is highly efficient. But also for the reasons that when we look at efficiency, if we really want to use all of the energy that comes into our state as efficiently as possible, which means producing power out, as much power out with as little fuel in as we can, then we need to look at a number of new technologies, old technologies improving, new technologies that will help us with this conversion efficiency. And so what I hope to see in the future is that we do increase the use of combined heat and power, where we not only produce electricity, but we capture the waste heat and we use the waste heat to produce additional electricity or direct thermal loads to customers.
Sure.
So that's one area, and of course the president has a combined heat and power initiative that he's launched. The second is to look at using some new appliances, fuel cells, stationary fuel cells to produce power. So once we get a clean methane stream in Hawaii, it opens the door to use several of these types of appliances that will further improve the efficiency of our total energy picture in Hawaii. And I think that's what we need to start looking at is the systems approach for total energy in, total energy out, and how do we actually convert all of this in the most efficient way. That I think is a tremendously important point for us to have discussions about practically how do we do this in the market going forward. So that's an important part for us to consider.
Okay, very good. Well, we're about to wrap it up here today.
Oh, really? Is it that time already? Oh, my.
Yes. Sharon,
yes.
have you got any closing thoughts
Well, I
for
think
us?
this is quite exciting that some of the discussion that was going on before is now coming to fruition, at least testing and piloting. We'd like to hear back on where you are as you go forward, because it is always the controversy of, oh, we're not doing enough renewables, why are we going to something else? But again, there is that mix, and it is cleaner than oil. So what are the safeguards? How might we look at a plan that integrates and and has a longer range view, and so that we can see some milestones and look at, are we doing it or not, and make our adjustments as we go along. So I hope that we can hear from you, and we could have that kind of discussion on an ongoing basis as we go forward.
Yeah, I would enjoy coming back and look forward to it.
Well, and things are changing enough that we could plan to have you back here real soon, and you could probably give us some new information. So,
I probably could, yes.
Well, we really appreciate your taking the time out today, and we've had Joe Boivin, Senior Vice President, Business Development and Corporate Affairs at Hawaii Gas, with us today, and Sharon Moriwaki, co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and me, Ray Starling. I am the program manager at Hawaii Energy, and we're very happy to be with you today and to have been able to bring you this show where we talked all about gas. So we look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday, same time, same place, and thank you very much. We're out of here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aloha.